All right, let's dive into this and break it down in a way that makes sense. Because the Eagles' offseason is starting to feel like a soap opera, and we are all just here for the drama. First off, let's talk about the big headline. Declan Doyle. This was the name that a lot of Eagles fans were excited about. And honestly, I get why. He's young, he's innovative, and he represents that fresh, modern approach to offense that could really shake things up in Philadelphia. But then he withdraws his candidacy, and suddenly the whole situation gets weird. What's even stranger is that after he pulled out, the Ravens requested to interview him. So now you're left wondering, did he really want the Eagles' job? Or was he just keeping his options open? And if he did want it, why did he back out? It makes you question what's really going on behind the scenes, because this kind of move doesn't happen in a vacuum. And speaking of coaches withdrawing, the list keeps growing. Coaches are pulling out left and right. And it has people asking the same question. Why? Are they really turning down a job with one of the most talented rosters in the NFL? Or is there something deeper going on? There are two main possibilities that come to mind. First, maybe the Eagles' job is simply becoming undesirable. Maybe the narrative is true, that the front office has too much control. Maybe people believe that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie have too much influence over the team's decisions, and the head coach is not truly calling the shots. That would definitely make the job less appealing, because no coach wants to feel like they're not in charge of their own offense. But there's another theory that I haven't seen many people talk about, and it's the one that I find most interesting. The other possibility is that coaches are avoiding the Eagles because they think Nick Sirianni is going to be fired soon. Maybe they see this as an opportunity to take over the job, but they don't want to be the offensive coordinator under Sirianni and risk getting fired along with him. Think about it. If a coach comes in as the offensive coordinator and the team struggles, he might get blamed, even if the issues are beyond his control. But if he waits it out and Sirianni gets fired, he could step into the head coach role without having to carry the baggage of being the coordinator. That's a risky strategy, but it's not crazy. It's just the kind of thing that could be happening behind the scenes now. Another reason that people are speculating is that these candidates want to bring in their own staff. That's a big deal. If a coach comes in and has to work with Jeff Stoutland or the current defensive staff, they might feel like they can't fully implement their vision. They might want their own offensive line coach, their own defensive coordinator, and their own entire scheme. And if the Eagles are not willing to give them that kind of control, then why would they take the job? It's not just about the head coaching role. It's about having the freedom to build the team the way they want. So you can see why people are hesitant. There are a lot of moving parts, and the Eagles' situation is starting to look like a complicated puzzle, despite all the drama. One thing remains clear: the Eagles' roster is stacked. This is not a team that lacks talent. If a coach comes in and does their job correctly, the path to success is pretty clear. The Eagles have elite talent on both sides of the ball, and the offensive weapons are undeniable. So what's making the job undesirable? It's hard to say. Maybe it's just the perception that the Eagles are too micromanaged. Maybe it's the uncertainty around how much control the coach will really have, or maybe it's something else entirely. But you can't ignore the fact that this many coaches pulling out is unusual. There's clearly something making them uncomfortable, and the question is whether that's a real problem or just a rumor that got out of hand. One thing that might be happening is that the Eagles are narrowing down their list and signaling to candidates that it's best to withdraw now. We've seen that happen before. Coaches will pull out because they realize they're not the front runner, or because they don't want to waste time on a job they might not get. That could be what's happening here. For example, take Nate Hackett. A lot of people were talking about him, and it seemed like he was a serious candidate, but now it looks like he might be heading elsewhere, possibly to Buffalo or Cleveland. The buzz around him suggests that he's going to land a head coaching job. And if that happens, it would be a huge miss for the Eagles. It's not looking good for Philadelphia when it comes to the most popular candidates. And that's a big deal. When you think about the Eagles' history, you can't ignore the way things worked out with Kellen Moore. That was a situation where the Eagles made a quick move, brought him in, and it paid off big time. The team won the Super Bowl, and it felt like a clean, decisive move. But this time, the process is dragging on, and the competition is intense. Coaches are being selective. And the Eagles are not the only team in the market. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And that means the Eagles have to fight for their candidate. It's a different landscape than it was a few years ago. and it's causing the whole situation to feel more chaotic. On top of that, there's the question of whether the Eagles will wait until after the Super Bowl to make a decision. That's another possibility. Sometimes teams delay interviews or decisions until the off-season chaos settles down. The problem is that the longer the process takes, the more it fuels speculation and uncertainty. Fans start to worry, media narratives grow, and the whole thing becomes a bigger story than it should be. The Eagles need to get this settled quickly because the longer it drags on, the more it impacts the perception of the team. But we'll see what the plan is. For now, all we can do is wait and watch how this plays out. Now let's shift gears and talk about Joe Casper. This is a move that might not get as much attention, but it's significant. Joe Casper has been the Eagles' secondary coach for a while, and he just got promoted. He's taking over the role that Christian Parker is leaving as he moves on to become a defensive coordinator. At first, I was a little unsure about the move, because I wasn't convinced we'd seen enough development from players like Sidney Brown or Reed Blankenship. But when you look closer, you have to give Joe Casper credit for what he's done with Andrew McCabe. That's a player who showed real improvement, and that kind of development doesn't happen by accident. It shows that Casper can coach and can develop talent, and it's not just McCabe. He's worked with players like Cooper DeJean, and DeJean has shown improvement as well. There are people in the building who respect Joe Casper, and that matters. Coaching is not just about the scheme. It's about the relationships and the ability to get the best out of players. If the players trust you, you're going to get better results. That's why I think Joe Casper deserves the promotion. He's earned it. And he seems like the kind of coach who can take the secondary to the next level. And if he does well, it could open doors for him in the future. Maybe he becomes a defensive coordinator in the NFL. And who knows where that could lead. But for now, it's a good move for the Eagles. Now, let's talk about this trade scenario that keeps popping up. And honestly, it's one of the more ridiculous things I've seen. People are saying that the reason candidates are withdrawing is because of Jalen Hurts. They're talking about trading him for Joe Burrow, and I have to say, that's just a wild conversation. The hypothetical goes something like this. What if the Eagles traded Jalen Hurts and to first-round picks for Joe Burrow, and people are acting like that's a realistic option? But it's not. It's the kind of thing that comes from the media, the own media that creates these crazy trade scenarios for the sake of clicks and controversy. And even if we entertain the idea, it doesn't make sense. Joe Burrow is great, no doubt. But he's also injury-prone, and that's not a small detail. He's had his share of injuries, and you can't ignore that. Plus, if you look at his situation in Cincinnati, he has two elite receivers, a subpar offensive line, and the team's defense is not as strong as the Eagles. The fact that he has had success there shows that he's a talented quarterback. But it also shows that he's not going to be available for a full season every year. And if you're trading away your Super Bowl MVP for a quarterback who might not stay healthy, that's a huge risk. Now, let's talk about the reality of the situation. The Eagles have a quarterback who can win games and get you into the playoffs. Jalen Hurts has proven he can lead this team, and he has shown he can win at the highest level. If he has a down year, he can still get you into the wild card. Joe Burrow, on the other hand, has not shown that kind of consistency. And if you're trading away the guy who just won the Super Bowl a year ago, you need to be sure you're getting something better. But what are you getting? A quarterback with injury concerns and no guarantee of better results. It just doesn't add up. And then there's the bigger issue. What about A.J. Brown? If there's uncertainty around Brown's future in Philadelphia, that's a major problem. You don't want to bring in a new quarterback and then risk losing your best weapon. If the Eagles are going to trade for a quarterback like Burrow, they need to know that they have the pieces around him. If Brown is on his way out, that changes everything. It's no wonder coaches are hesitant. They want stability. They want clarity. And right now the Eagles are giving them uncertainty. So, yes, I think that might be part of the reason coaches are pulling out, not because of Hurts, but because of the entire situation around the team. But here's the bottom line. Jalen Hurts is not the problem. The problem is the perception of the organization. People think the management is too controlling, and they don't see Sirianni as a strong head coach. They might not believe in the leadership, and that's what's making this job look unattractive. So for all the talk about quarterbacks and trade scenarios, the real issue is the culture and the structure of the team. That's what's driving people away, not Hurts. And if the Eagles want to fix it, they need to show that the coach has real authority. and that the organization is a place where coaches can build and succeed. All right, let's keep rolling, because this Eagles off-season story is far from over, and the more we dig into it, the more it feels like we are watching a slow-motion thriller unfold. Now, I want to circle back to something that really stands out to me: the way the Eagles are handling the whole coaching search. It feels like there's a pattern here, and the longer this drags on, the more you start to wonder if there is a deeper strategy in play. Are the Eagles intentionally playing it cool, waiting for the right candidate to become available? Or are they just stuck in a cycle of indecision? It is hard to say. But one thing is certain: the longer you wait, the more the story grows, and the more the narrative takes on a life of its own. Let's talk about the idea of control. We keep hearing that the Eagles have a management style that is heavy on oversight. And if that's true, it can be a real turn-off for top coaching talent. When a coach comes into a situation and feels like they are being micromanaged, it can kill creativity and morale. The Eagles have a lot of talent, but talent alone doesn't win championships. You need a system, a vision, and a coach who can actually execute that vision without feeling like every decision is being second-guessed. If coaches feel like they won't have the autonomy to run their offense the way they want, it makes sense why they would look elsewhere. And let's be honest, the Eagles have had a very specific identity under this regime. It's been about winning now, and winning fast, and that can be great when it works. But it can also be exhausting. Coaches who want to build something long-term might not see that as a good fit. They might want the freedom to develop their own style, their own culture, and their own way of doing things. If they don't get that, then why would they sign up for the job? Especially when there are other teams offering similar opportunities without the same level of control. Now, let's talk about the idea that the Eagles might be intentionally narrowing down their options. Maybe the team has already identified who they want, and they're just letting the rest of the candidates fade away. That's a real possibility. If the Eagles have someone in mind, they might be using the interviews more as a formality. They could be signaling to other candidates that the job is not as open as it seems, which could lead to withdrawals. It's a tactic that can work, but it also risks creating the perception that the organization is not being transparent, or that the job is not as desirable as people think. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. What began as an offhand comment has quickly grown into one of the most talked about rumors circulating around the league. A star player from the Seattle Seahawks is at the center of growing speculation after making a provocative statement that many interpreted as a direct shot at the Philadelphia Eagles. While the comment itself was brief, its implications have fueled debates among fans, analysts, and insiders who are now reading between the lines. According to sources close to the locker room, the Seahawks standout questioned what he described as the illusion of dominance surrounding the Eagles. He hinted that Philadelphia's reputation may be stronger than its actual on-field substance, suggesting that certain teams benefit more from narrative than performance. The words immediately raised eyebrows, especially given the respect traditionally exchanged between the two franchises. Within league circles, the remark is being viewed less as trash talk and more as a calculated message. Some believe the player was voicing a frustration shared quietly by others, while rival executives see it as an attempt to shift pressure onto Philadelphia. Others speculate the comment could be rooted in past encounters, lingering slights, or even admiration disguised as criticism. The Eagles organization has officially stayed silent, but insiders suggest the comment has not gone unnoticed. In Philadelphia, the statement is reportedly being used as quiet motivation, reinforcing an us-against-them mindset that has long defined the team's identity. Meanwhile, in Seattle, teammates have downplayed the controversy, describing the player as outspoken but competitive, someone who thrives on mental warfare as much as physical execution. As the rumor mill continues to spin, one thing is clear: a single sentence has reignited an old rivalry and added a layer of intrigue to future matchups. Whether the statement was strategic, emotional, or simply misunderstood, its ripple effect is already being felt across the league, proving once again that in the NFL, words can carry almost as much weight as plays on the field. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.